What's up, guys? Are we live? I think we're live. How we doing? We switched up how we started the stream a little bit, so I wasn't sure, but we're back for game two of the finals. Hopefully, you did okay on game one. Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench, like a flamethrower, kind of threw a wrench in things. But we got Nick to join me today, so hopefully we'll get another point of view on things. Nick, how we doing?
Good man, yeah. Was definitely excited for the series coming in. I mean, Dallas obviously has to make some pretty major adjustments in Game Two, but I mean, we look at their playoff run so far, and that's kind of what they've been doing. Lost Game One to OKC. What was this? And the Clippers as well. They lost the Game One of that series. Looked really good in both of those Game Twos. So maybe that's a trend that we could hopefully buy into here. Extend this. Obviously, more of these streams, more slates for DFS and everything else would be ideal. As kind of a neutral party here. But yeah, man, hoping the Mavs can get it done tonight. I think there's some pretty obvious adjustments they have to make, though.
Yeah, I like the Mavs today too. They are 7.5 point underdogs. I think the spread moved a little bit. They were 7 when I looked earlier.
Yeah, close to 6.5 with Luca being pretty much confirmed in.
Okay. Okay. Well, we actually just got another tweet from Jason. So we got news earlier that he was downgraded to questionable. Then we got something saying he's expected to play. And then a couple minutes ago, Jason Kidd said he's a game time decision, but I don't see a world where Luca doesn't play today, even if he's on half a leg, right?
Yeah, I mean Jason Kidd. First, let me just say this: the reason I'm pulling for the Mavs is Jason Kidd, one of my favorite players growing up. But he's doing this thing now, man. He's trying to play these mind games, and like I think this is one of them, honestly. But we also heard in interviews he's like Jalen's their best player, like trying to get in Tatum's head a
I
little
love
bit,
it.
and then he's really pumping up Tatum, like he needs to be taking more shots. It's like he's doing these little I don't know, like poker moves almost, but it's like dude, like I don't know, it's the finals. I don't know if those types of head games are really going to get you anywhere. And yeah, I think it's just kind of corny that they're going to call Luca a game time decision. I'm 99.9% sure he's going to play here.
Yeah. And so let's get into some of the early questions. Appreciate all you guys being here. Jose, good to see you. Who's tonight's favorite captain option?
It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. I mean, for salaries, like I need to spend a little bit more time here, kind of messing with the builds on DK. I was kind of building on FanDuel before we went on, and just kind of looking at some of the stat lines and things like that. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing: both these teams are they're running pretty short rotations, obviously, with it being the finals. And the guys that are even getting minutes towards the end of the bench aren't that great, so it's tough to pay all the way up at captain. I think on DK. Imagine you agree, but like I think someone like Jalen Brown makes sense. I don't know. We talked about Horford, who's probably going to start again before we got on. I think he makes a lot of sense. And it's a big bounce back spot for the bigs for Dallas. They both played pretty terribly. Derek Lively was in a lot of foul trouble, had some massive games throughout the playoffs coming into this series. I think if Dallas is going to get right here today, a lot of it's going to come from those bigs. Not confident whether it's going to be one or the other. My lean is Lively. It sounds like maybe you're on Gafford, but I do like that price range because you're able to fit probably most of the studs with them. I mean, Kyrie, where he's priced compared to Jalen Brown, I'm very comfortable getting to Jalen over him. So if you kind of leave Kyrie out, maybe KP out, like we discussed, then yeah, I mean, you find yourself in the mid range able to fit Luca with Tatum and actually some pretty good mid range pieces without getting too weird and playing the, I don't know, Hardys and Hausers of the world.
Yeah, I love it. And that's what I was talking about in game one. Like, one of these bench guys definitely could get there, and it did happen to be a blowout. I mean, we're not going to expect a blowout again, but if you're building a lot of lineups, you can definitely build a portion of your set with that game script. Last game, it was Hardy. He ended up going off in the final minute, and it was funny because the Millie winner came down to Hardy versus Hauser, and Hardy won by one stat. Like if he got one less rebound or one less assist, then that Hauser lineup would have won the 150K, whatever it ended up being the split.
He outscored Kyrie.
Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, 13 points to 12.
All right, so I got that one. I said fade Kyrie. That was my strongest stance from game one. I didn't play any Porzingis, so I wasn't really competing. Cashed a bunch though, so I think the lineup still did okay. What we're looking at here is the rotation for game one, and so you pointed out that Derek Lively got in foul trouble, and he was frustrated the whole game. It was pretty tough. I thought I couldn't tell who the refs were favoring. It seems like they were just bad for both ways, but they did let them play a little bit, which I love. Mm-hmm. But so Lively with 18 minutes, Gafford with only 14 minutes, and this is something that I pointed out from one of the previous times these teams met, where Lively had been starting at that time. So Lively started, played a bunch of minutes. Maybe it was like 21 minutes. Gafford played 5 or 6 off the bench. But Al Horford and Porzingis still shared the court in that game. And we saw that again in game 1 of the finals. Porzingis and Horford did share the court for some time. So the winning lineup had both of them. I don't know if I'm going to go back to that tonight, but it's definitely an idea to get different. And so my bull case for Derek Lively, like Nick pointed out, he got in foul trouble. He was probably due for more minutes than the 18 and a half he played. And then with Gafford, it's something like Dallas was really successful running the pick and roll with Gafford when they could pin like anyone on the lower block. And it put the Celtics in a really tough spot because then they give it down to Gafford and he can just hit the open man on the perimeter. And so I'm curious if Jason Kidd is going to run that back and try to get a few more minutes there. That's why I'm a little bit okay with taking some shots on Gafford. But I do agree with Nick that Lively is probably the I don't want to say safer play, but he probably is more likely to get there, assuming he doesn't get in foul trouble again.
Yeah, it's interesting too if you look at the model. We have Gafford with 6.2 in OF index, Lively only 4.8, but we actually have Lively with 2 or 3 more minutes. So I think they're both good plays. Like if one's going to totally go off, I mean, maybe they could both end up optimal. I'd probably prefer to have one or the other, though, if you're using them at captain. If you're using both, I wouldn't be using either at captain, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be heavily involved here. And I do want to bring up a name I'm not rushing to, but if you're really looking for a punt, I mean, Maxi Kleber is a guy who's been with this team for a while, bit of a veteran presence there. When things weren't going good for Lively or Gafford, he did seem to get a little bit of extended run. It's not that he was doing much with those minutes, but again, if we're kind of picking between garbage at the lower end of the salary range, I'd rather go with someone like Maxi, who I at least know could get real minutes in a competitive game. But yeah, man, I mean, it's tough. The front court definitely has to show up tonight, though, or they're in big trouble. Like this feels close to a must win.
So just so we're clear, you like Maxi, right?
I don't love him, but compared to like the Hardys and I don't know Hausers of the world, I do favor him slightly. Like I don't like any of the super cheap plays. Like if I can go balance and avoid them, I want to. But I'm a little bit more comfortable with Maxi, just knowing he's actually a guy that they can trust to get decent minutes.
Okay, so you guys, Nick did not catch the first stream, and Maxi was my bench guy that I was totally on low on guy, and so I feel a little validated that that you're on him, and he played 19 minutes in game 1. He just did literally nothing with those minutes. I think he had 2 points and 0 rebounds, and so the fact that he played 19 minutes is really good. Maybe some of that had to do with Derek Lively's foul trouble, but we did see him play 20 minutes over Lively and Gafford in that regular season game. So it's another spot to go to. And then Jaden Hardy, he did his work in like 1.5 minutes. Can he do it again? Sure. But we'll have to see on that one.
Yep.
And let's see, some more talk about the captain. Luka captain feels like the right move tonight, but he's very cost prohibitive, maybe depressed ownership.
What do we have projected for captain ownership? I mean, it is slightly depressed, but he's still the most popular captain, at least where we're projecting him. So I don't know that you could necessarily say that. And like I said, I mean, if you go to Luka at captain, it's tough to fit any of the other like super expensive guys in there. So like say Kyrie has a bounce back game, we get a really good game out of White and Holiday. Like I think that's the path for a Luka captain lineup to be optimal, which is certainly possible. But yeah, I mean it's going to be tough to fit him with Tatum, Brown, etc. So really, like you're going to need Luka and then probably that mid-range to do well in those Luka lineups. Because again, I don't want to play these super cheap guys if I can help it. I mean, Derrick Jones is another guy I guess worth bringing up. Like they did not get much from the wings at all in that game, but we've seen some big scores out of him occasionally. I mean, what's his price? Oh no, that's captain price, 4,800. If you, I was like 72, never mind. But yeah, at 48, I mean that's not terrible. Like I'd definitely rather get to Lively for 200 more. But yeah, I mean those are the types of plays, like those 4 to 5K range guys that you're going to have to be mixing in if you're going to Luka.
And Jose, which guys do we like least for each team? And so, like, not including the bench guys, for me, it's easily Kyrie for the Mavericks. And then it's not that I don't like Jason Tatum. I just kind of like what Nick was talking about. Like, I'd rather play even like Jaylen Brown and mix in a Derek White, maybe Andrew Holiday, and then maybe just one punt with like a Jaden Hardy or Maxi Kleber rather than 2 punts if I'm trying to force in Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same. And like, At the same time, though, like my gut is that Dallas does bounce back here, and if they do, we're going to get a much better Kyrie game. I mean, he was 0 for 5 from three, 6 for 19 from the field. Really wasn't getting to the free throw line. I don't think he shot a single free throw. So we talked about the pick and roll with the bigs, but they also going to run some pick and roll with Kyrie getting into the paint more. I think that's going to be a key for them here tonight. Will they be able to execute it? I don't know. But I mean, I do agree. Like even saying that point per dollar, Kyrie does feel overpriced compared to the other studs. So yeah, I mean, I'm prioritizing Luka like you. I'd probably have Jalen next, then Tatum, then Kyrie. But as talking through it, I'm imagining that's where the ownerships are. So it's like, I don't know. There is a world where Kyrie bounces back in a big way here. At the same time, I think Luka also does well in that game, if that is the case, because he's going to get his assists up. Again, Dallas only had 9 assists total that game, only 1 for Luka, which is completely out of character for him. Boston did a great job just kind of forcing Luka to take shots, and he made a ton of them, but they really did kind of plug up those passing lanes. So that's going to be the adjustment here, getting his team involved, getting the passes off, making those decisions quicker so he's not having to shoot every single time. Will they be able to make those adjustments? We have to wait and see. But it's very clear that that's where the biggest kind of flaw in their offense was game one, the inability to kind of create plays, create passes, and pick and roll is definitely a path to that. And it doesn't have to be bigs running that. Kyrie is a guy who can kind of roll into the paint and get a lot of looks. Again, no free throw attempts for him. That's not something you're going to want if you're Dallas in game two.
I mean, Dallas just looked awful in game one. And
That's
I've been
true.
watching like every game that Dallas has played this playoffs, and I haven't seen them look that bad. And so, yeah, I guess we're hoping for a
It's
bounce
almost
back.
like they got comfortable dropping these game ones, and like it's a goofy thing to say, and we're dealing with like a 3 game sample of data, so I don't want to look too deeply into it. But like I don't know, you see Kyrie on the bench like early in the first half, just kind of smiling, and like he's talking to the reporter, and he's like, it's game one, this is a long series, blah blah blah. It's like partially, I know they made a nice little comeback in the third, where it seemed like the game would get close. I think they cut the lead to 8 points, but it just felt like they were kind of conceding that game at some point, like a lot earlier than maybe they should have been. So yeah, tonight's a big gut check. They've responded throughout these playoffs in this situation. Vegas does have Boston still as a pretty big favorite though, so it's going to be interesting.
Let's talk about Luka's, injury status real quick. Do you expect it to affect his performance tonight at all? Because like we're assuming he plays, and I believe it's a left ankle and a right knee. And then I saw someone say something about he got hit in the chest in practice. So are you concerned at all about Luka about the injury? I guess.
I mean, if he's starting, then no. I don't know. He's been banged up throughout these playoffs. Like, there's been a bunch of games where he's playing hurt. He had one of his biggest games against the T Wolves where he was supposedly super injured, and like, I don't know. It's the finals. Like, this is a hooper. I think he's just going to get up for the game. Kid is coming out and saying that it's a true game time decision. Again, I'm not buying it. I think this is just kind of like poker tactics, and he's just trying to, I don't know, play with the Celtics' minds. But they're going to game plan for Luka. It's absolutely insane. And yeah, man, I don't know. I'm just not buying into it. And maybe that's a flaw on my end. But how do you not play a guy that's going to rate so much better than every other play on the board? He's going to be popular, but I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of crazy to buy into that injury in game two of the finals at this point, where it's a guy who's been questionable all year.
I will say I was like, because like Luca looks hurt. He kind of reminds me of Joel Embiid during the playoffs, where he's still doing really well, hits threes, like he looks exhausted, but he looks hurt. And in game one, he had a week off, and he still looked just as hurt as he did during the conference final. So that is concerning. But I'm still playing him as if nothing's wrong, assuming he's going to score 60 plus fantasy points.
Yeah, and just to be a little bit of devil's advocate on that too, I do feel like Luke is a guy who kind of has to play into shape at times. Like I don't know how if he was running wind sprints in his whole week off. Like I don't know, it's a guy who once he gets the feel for the game and once he's in there, he seems to kind of suddenly find that extra gear. Like I don't know, maybe it was rust on his end, just knowing the style of player that he is. Like we saw with Jokic a lot earlier in his career too. He'd come in the season and just kind of play his way into shape. Obviously, this is different. It's 1 week. It's the finals. But again, I mean, he's the type of guy that maybe needs to shake a little rust off. It's not like he's some freak athlete or anything like that.
I'm going to catch up on some of these questions. So, Londo, do we like 4-2-2, 3-3, or 5-1 builds for tonight?
Hmm.
Let me just check my build.
I mean, personally, I don't look too deeply into that just because if you're getting good value on players, for the NBA. Like usually point per dollar, like exceeding value is what matters. Like so if you're saying, I don't know, maybe the Celtics have another great game here and they're doing, I don't know, the better work offensively. Like you could still have lineups where the Dallas guys are the better value plays just because you're getting good minutes out of like a Derek Jones or a Lively or a Gafford. So I don't know. It's tough to say just because the Celtics have a great game. Like that was a blowout. Do you know how many Mavericks were in the optimal? I mean, I
Uh,
know Hardy is kind of a weird one, but
Hardy and Luca.
that's it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Well, because what I was gonna say was, if it wasn't for like that last Hardy assist, a
It would have been
5-1
nice.
Celtics with Luca would have won with Sam Hauser as the fifth Celtic, and so
That's a
they
good
can
point.
all win. And just from my builds right now, like I'm pretty light on 5-1s, but I really like the mid range guys. I bumped them all up, and I'm basically perfectly even on 3-3s and 4-2s for both sides, just like I was in game one.
No, yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I mean the first builds I have are 4-2s in both directions. I think the easiest Luca builds like a 4-2 with Dallas. I'm imagining it's going to be super duped, but like Luca, Gafford, Lively, Washington, White, Horford, something like that, where you're not even getting to another stud, but you're not playing any real garbage. That's kind of where I'm at for most of my stuff right now. But yeah, I don't know. The point you just made is a good one. Like, yeah, things go a little bit different in those garbage time minutes. We're talking about a 5-1 and a blowout. So if you think the game blows out and you want to go 5-1 Celtics again, I don't think it's crazy. Just knowing how top heavy Dallas is in terms of their production, it would be tougher for me to go super heavy Dallas. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think anything could win. It's a 1 game slate.
Yeah, I'm not paying too much attention to it. I'm mostly just taking what the builder is giving me.
Right.
I could understand the argument for 5-1 more if you're hand building for a specific narrative like the
Yeah.
blowout. Smitty, what's up, boys? What's up, dude?
So, yeah.
Can we play Gafford and Lively in the same lineup? I don't think so because they don't share the court ever. But we know Horford and Porzingis do, so it's just much different. And one of them could get benched at any point.
Well, my thing with them was I think point per dollar, they're both really good plays. I'd say
Mhm.
you can, but you can't if you're using one at captain, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because if you're using one at captain, you really need that ceiling game out of them. But if you get 2 decent games out of both of them, which I think is possible if they both play 20 minutes, like you look at what else is in that price range, like just sorting by DK price here. I mean, we got Lively at 5K, Gafford at 4.6. Like they could easily both outscore Derek Jones. Like they could still outscore, I don't know, maybe Horford. Like it's just a range where there's not a lot of good plays. And if you're paying up for Luca at captain, I don't think it's crazy to land on both of them. But again, don't use one at captain and play the other because you're really going to want that ceiling out of whoever the captain is. I just think knowing how weak that range is for pricing, it's not insane to play them together. But I do agree their ceiling's kind of capped by one another, which is why I wouldn't play one at captain.
I like that. Yeah, that seems fine. I have to play them both in flex.
Yeah,
On the
exactly.
captain. Do we like Josh Green at 2,800 on DK? I'm playing him. I don't like him.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about minutes in that price range. I do trust him more than Hauser or Hardy, certainly. He's a guy who's involved even if the game's competitive, projected for more minutes than Pritchard. He's done nothing with his minutes on the floor. But yeah, I mean, if Luke is going to be generating more assists tonight, if they're getting some of those corner looks, maybe he's someone who does get more involved. So yeah, there's not many plays in that range to like. I'll say he's definitely viable, though, which is the most I can say about him, I guess.
And Tim Hardaway rotting on the bench. Why? Because he's not good.
Yeah, he's a defensive liability, and if your 2 best players are Luca and Kyrie, like you're already kind of trying to cover those gaps defensively. So you
Mm-hmm.
got Hardaway on the floor with them, like together, it's never going to work. And it's not that you want one of Luca or Kyrie off the floor very much. So it's just very tough for them to get him involved because it's pretty much 3 guys who score. And I mean, I know Kyrie's been playing better defense. Luca looks okay at times, but yeah, you're not going to be able to defend a team like the Celtics with those 3 on the floor.
Yeah, and I mentioned this for game one. Like he hasn't been in the rotation, but how does Dallas win a game? Like they get hot from three. Tim Hardaway is still a really good 3-point shooter,
It's true.
and they did give him a shot when they were down by 25 late in the third quarter, and then he finished the game in garbage time. And so kind of the same idea applies, but he's not in the model. Like the model would rather play 10 minutes of Jaden Hardy, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and Maxi Kleber even over Tim Hardaway. So it's a tough one. But if you're making 150, I don't think it's bad to mix in a few percent of him.
Yeah.
We are sleeping. Tatum might have the best game. He definitely could.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just a matter of weighing like his ownership with the price versus the probability of other players also doing well.
Yeah, it's like if you're captaining Tatum, you're almost not able to play Luca, unless you're playing a ton of scrubs. So like that's the reason we're not on him. It's not that Tatum isn't the second best player on the board. It's just point per dollar in terms of building, in terms of fitting things. He's very difficult to use if you're going to Luca. So if you think the Luca injury is serious, you see him in pregame warmups, he doesn't look good. You got a hunch he's not going to be himself tonight. That's where I'd go to Tatum. But again, you're not playing a lot of Luca with Tatum on DK, certainly. So it's not that we don't like Tatum. I do think he has a better game than game one, at least offensively. But at the same time, I mean, it's tough not to just play a ton of Luca right now.
And it's like, this isn't a perfect analogy, but would you rather have Jason Tatum and like Jaden Hardy in your lineup, or Derek White and Drew Holiday? And for me, I'll just take Derek White and Drew Holiday, especially with Tatum's ownership. So again, like, I expect Tatum to have a good game.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think he's going to have a terrible game, but it just points per dollar. Drew Holiday can put up 40. Derek White can put up 40. PJ Washington put up 50 once. And so there's just a lot of good role players who are going to contribute points.
Yeah.
How do we feel about FanDuel lineups? So Nick, this is a good one for
Yeah.
you.
I mean, I will say the pricing between Tatum and Brown on FanDuel is a lot closer. So we get Luke at 17, and then Tatum's only 500 more than Jalen. So on FanDuel, actually, I do feel pretty comfortable saying I prefer Tatum over Jalen Brown over there. You could build lineups that have Luca a captain or Tatum a captain, and then the second spot is going to be the other. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing that, you're skipping Kyrie, you're skipping Jalen, you're probably skipping Porzingis. Let me sort by salary, make sure I'm getting this right. Um, but yeah, it's better on FanDuel, I'll say, because you could actually build with Luca and feel pretty good about it. Whereas on DK, if you're captaining one of them, obviously you're paying extra. FanDuel, there's not a pricing adjustment, and there's only 500 difference in salary compared to DK, where you're looking at 3,300. So yeah, Tatum better play over on FanDuel. As far as value goes, I mean, it is pretty dicey. I still like those Dallas bigs best, being Lively and or Gafford. Horford a little bit too cheap for what he's probably going to provide here. We have to expect Porzingis' minutes to come up. He only played 21. If the game was close, maybe he gets 24 to 26. I think a ceiling for him here is maybe like 28. We have him for 25. But the whole reason of me talking through this is that I do like Horford at his price, PJ Washington. I think those guys in the mid range fit really well with those lineups where we're paying up. And then I don't know. I don't want to get too cheap again with some of these scrubs at the bottom. So I'm trying to stay kind of balanced. So like I said, if you're going to pay up twice, you're going to find yourself with like a White or a Holiday as your third position, maybe PJ Washington. But yeah, it's a little bit easier to fit Tatum on FanDuel, certainly. But the scrubs are still the scrubs. The studs are still the studs. There's definitely similarities. But I think you could get away with more stars than you can on DK.
And Jose Hardy over Kleber.
Hardy is the higher ceiling. I'm pretty comfortable saying that. Kleber has the higher floor because if it's a competitive game, I still think he gets minutes. If you're playing big, large field GPPs, which I imagine you are, I'd probably still go to Hardy, honestly, just knowing that he is upside. Um, but yeah, like if I was gonna just bet straight up, if this game's competitive, who plays more minutes? It's Kleber. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of pass to Hardy getting minutes. Maybe Luca really is hurt and something happens mid game. He has to sit out for a few minutes. Or maybe it is another blowout in either direction. Then we'd see a lot of Hardy. And he does a lot on the floor. And even if Kleber's getting minutes, not always the guy who's involved. So I like Hardy more. Won't say he's safer, though. He could just not play at all, which is obviously a concern. Kleber safer for minutes, but we're not playing who plays more minutes. Like, yeah, Hardy's probably the better upside play. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah. And so, yeah, I completely agree. Kleber probably plays more minutes in any situation. But one thing I'll say about Kleber is he had a wide open three at one point in maybe the third quarter last game, and he didn't even look to shoot. He just started looking around like, who can I pass to? And if he's not willing to shoot a wide open three, then that's like that makes me want to take a little bit of a step back from Maxi Kleber, because that's his whole value, is getting rebounds, a block, and hitting 2 threes. Like if he does that, he's probably close to optimal, if not optimal tonight.
And if he is on the floor, more pick and roll should create more of those opportunities for him. You just have to hope in film sessions like he got roasted for that, and if that comes up again, he's going to fire. But yeah, I totally agree, man. If he's not going to take the shots when they're there, he's useless. So
And Luca's officially in. Surprise! I'm shocked. Last Jones Jr. over Gafford.
that's tricky. In lively lineups, yes. If you don't have lively, no.
Yeah, again, it's kind of the same. Like minutes wise, Derek Jones is probably playing 30 minutes again. I don't see why he wouldn't. And Daniel Gafford is never playing 30 minutes, even if
Right.
Lively gets hurt in the first minute. Uh, let's see. Londo made a 5-1 Dallas lineup, fading Tatum and Brown. Any thoughts on that strategy? I mean, you really got to thread the needle for that lineup to work. I don't think it's bad to play a 5-1 Dallas. I will say, though, Boston has a lot of mid-range role players like
Mhm.
Drew Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford that are pretty good fantasy producers. And so just our Derek Jones, PJ Washington, whoever you're going to play from Dallas, like what's the probability of them actually outscoring those Boston guys?
Yeah, I mean, we go through like the game logs and like where Kyrie's priced. I'm imagining that lineup has Kyrie in it. Like he's had a few ceiling games these playoffs, but they definitely come less frequently than we see them out of Brown and Tatum. Um, but again, that's why he's lower owned. So I don't think it's insane. You'd probably need a Dallas game where Kyrie's really playing well for that to work out. He's probably going to have to outplay at least one of Brown or Tatum for that to work out.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Like I've been super down on Kyrie, but for Dallas to have a chance in this series, he's gonna have to score 30 points once or
Yeah,
twice, if not
absolutely.
3 times, right?
Yeah, or Washington has to hit like 8 threes in a game again. I don't know if we're going to see that.
Did you touch on Tatum at MVP specifically?
I did. I mean, on FanDuel, I like it. Again, because he's priced he's a little bit underpriced compared to Jalen, in my opinion. I think on DK, just because I'm so heavy on Luca, it's tough. But I mean, I'm not going to talk anyone off playing Tatum at MVP. He's tremendous. It's just you got to be comfortable getting away from Luca. I'll say this, like, kind of looking for ways to if you're hand building, um, just trying to build narrative in these lineups, right? So in a world where you have Tatum at MVP, you're probably not playing Luca. And if it's a competitive game and Luka's not optimal, there's a good chance Kyrie and or PJ Washington are having a really good game. So it's kind of not an obvious correlation, but I'm thinking if I have Tatum captain, I'd probably like to have a lot of Kyrie and PJ in those lineups.
That's a really good one right there. I like that. Let's see. Okay, no more questions. So we'll hang out for a few more minutes. Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on specifically?
I mean, not specifically, man. I mean, I don't know. Again, we're looking at a 215-point total. These are two games who play two teams who play pretty good defense. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you don't want to play too many of those scrubs unless you think the game's going to blow out. I don't know. I'm just rehashing points as I'm thinking out loud right now. So I guess we could just move on.
Well, we've talked about most of the bench guys, and we have Samuel in here who are the top value plays. So we touched on most of the guys. Like it's probably Jaden Hardy, but minutes are a question. But do you have any thoughts on Peyton Pritchard?
Um, I mean, I don't know. He's one of these guys that like definitely has upside, but like whether the Boston games have been blowing out or they've been close, like we haven't seen many ceiling games out of him. Um, and again, we're dealing with such small samples of data. Like I don't want to take too strong of a stand, but to me, I don't know. I'm not crazy about him here. If we're being honest, he's so buried in that rotation with White and what's his name, Drew healthy, and now that Porzingis is back in the rotation, coming off the bench and sharing minutes with Horford, he's not like the regular rotational piece that he was during the regular season anymore. We have him for only 13 minutes, point per dollar too. Like he's a little bit more expensive than some of these other scrubs. So I don't know. Personally, I'm not crazy about him. If you're building for a Celtics blowout, then sure, mix him in there. Or maybe if you're fading both guards for some reason, one of them something happens, you can get him in. Like these are weird situations to kind of play out in your head, but like I don't know. We've seen at times like if you fade a popular guard, maybe the backup comes in and does something great. Like it's just tough for me in this situation. Like I don't really want to bank on an injury, even though it's a one game slate. So I don't know. I'm just not getting to Pritchard. 13 minutes projected. I think that's pretty accurate. But yeah, with Porzingis and White and Drew all healthy, he's not really a part of the rotation right now.
So I didn't think Pritchard was a good play, and that kind of made me think other people don't think he's a good play, and so maybe he's a good play because he's going to be a little bit
Low
underowned.
ownership. Yeah, yeah.
But he did play 15 and a half minutes. He shot over 7 from the field, over 5 from 3, still had 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He was +4 in a game that Boston won by 20, so that's not great. But I mean, 15 minutes. So again, kind of the same thing as Kleber. He's going to be on the court, and we know he can put up points in a hurry. So I'm actually, yeah, I think we talked me into playing some Peyton Pritchard now, so I'm going to mix him in a little bit.
Yeah, I do think it's worth mentioning most of those minutes came in the fourth quarter. He did get 4 extra minutes at the end there.
Okay.
He came in the fourth, played 6 minutes. The game was pretty much already out of hand at that point, but Boston kept some of their other starters in. But yeah, I'm looking at this. I think 12 of those 15 minutes came in the fourth quarter. Or no, that doesn't make sense. 10 of those 15 minutes came in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Well, he's predicted for 2% captain, 9% utility. I'll probably, throw him in
It's not
20%
crazy.
of my lineups,
Yeah,
maybe
it's not
15%. Like
Again, like we got to talk about who we're comparing him to. I mean, it's like Josh Green, who probably gets more minutes. Like Kleber, who we don't even know if he's going to shoot the ball if he gets it. I like him more than Exum. I'll say that. But yeah, again, I mean, we're choosing between a bunch of garbage. Is he viable as at that price? Yes, but am I like bullish on him? Certainly not.
Lotto
Again,
lie. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I'd rather try to get a little bit more balance and like cut off some of these really cheap guys. Like if we're talking about DK's salary, like I'm trying to cut things off around Gafford. Like Pritchard is next in line. Like Gafford's as cheap as I want to go there, and then on FanDuel, I guess Derek Jones is about as cheap as I want to go. So again, these guys are right below that kind of line for me. But I'm playing a little bit more conservatively.
Okay. We'll hang out for like 2 more minutes, guys. If you have any last minute questions, see some viewers coming in at the right at the tail end of our show. Sorry it's so early today, but we figured we'd have the Al Horford Porzingis news. I don't think it's official, but I'm going to trust what Porzingis said, that he's coming off the bench,
Yeah.
and gives us a little bit more time to work on our lineups. Maybe we can get another discussion going in the Discord. Instructions in the description below. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Subscribe, get notifications whenever we go live on our channel. We've been doing a lot of underdog best ball streams lately as well. And throw us a like on the video. It really helps us out.
Absolutely.
Play White tonight. Yep. I
Yes.
love White. Drew Holiday had the better game. Derek White didn't really do much. He's still projected for more ownership tonight, but I mean, I'm biased, but I'm going to have a lean towards Derek White over Drew Holiday either way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he's just a better offensive player right now. I mean, Drew is key for the Celtics team, but that doesn't always show up in the box score.
Favorite star/pro on FanDuel, please.
I mean, it's Luka Tatum if you can fit it. Again, the price between Tatum and Jalen is only 500 difference, so you can
Star
actually
Pro. Star Pro.
Okay, yeah, I'm just getting the names wrong here. I like PJ Washington a lot as a pro. So yeah, I would go either Jalen or Tatum at pro. A lot of my MVPs are Luka, and then I like PJ Washington. Who else is at that price though? Hold on. Yeah, I mean White's a little expensive. If you can fit him there, fine. But I think Washington, who I'm getting to most in that third slot.
And Patrick, one of our Discord Showdown NBA crushers, shout out to you. What contest are we playing tonight? Playing the $4 on DraftKings, and then a bunch of single entries, but not throwing any in the big one today. That was that one for game 1.
Yeah, I'm just throwing a few darts here and there, nothing too big, honestly. Yeah, I was looking at Super Draft earlier. I wish they still had good contests. They don't anymore. I had some money on there I didn't realize. But yeah, I mean, mostly big field stuff. Like if you're playing the smaller field, I will say that's where you're probably going to want to go more balanced. If you're playing these large field contests, like those garbage time minutes are the difference in a lot of these tournaments. Like who wins kind of depends on that last minute of the game where, I don't know, maybe the game's already decided and Hardy's out playing Sam Hauser. And that was the difference last time. Maybe this time it's like, I don't know, Pritchard and Kleber or something like that. But we did see, like, even in competitive games, there were people punting in flex on DK, building really strong lineups otherwise and getting there. So, yeah, I'm playing more smaller field stuff, but I will say large field strategy, you got to take some risks. My strategy of playing more balanced, only playing one of the super studs being Doncic, Tatum, Brown in most lineups, that's more of a conservative move, certainly. So it definitely depends on what contest you're playing, which way you go. More risks, the more people that are involved.
Horford or Porzingis over 1.5 threes? I don't think so. I can check though.
Horford went 2 for 5 last game. Porzingis 2 for 5. Wait, so either or?
I think
think
he's asking if either one are good bets.
Well, I know FanDuel has these boosts sometimes where it's like, we'll either hit 2 threes. If that's it, then I'd say yeah, but I can't with confidence say one or the other will.
If this is like for pick six or underdog pick 'em or prize picks, my answer is no. But like, would I be surprised if either of these guys hit 2 threes? No.
Yeah.
But this isn't an edge that I usually.
Right. It's not like
It's
a
not enough of an edge for me to chase, I guess.
exactly. They both did game one. So maybe if you're trying to get different in like a pick six, go under. But yeah, I don't know. I think one of them does. I don't think they both do, and I don't know if that helps answer the question though.
Well, he's saying pick one, and like Horford's are slightly better odds, so I'll say Horford on that. But if you can get to like Derek Jones over half a three, that's much better. Jaylen Brown under 2.5 threes. Derek White over 2 threes. So those all have better odds than Horford and Porzingis. But if you had to pick one, like you're forced to, then Horford has slightly better odds than Porzingis.
Yeah, we're projecting Horford for like 3 more minutes too, so should be more opportunities.
Did we already answer who's our bounce back player? Mine's Luka.
Bounce back?
Yeah.
I mean, he scored pretty well anyway. I'll go with Lively. I just think the foul trouble was pretty ridiculous. If he's on the floor more, he should do a lot better.
Is 4-2 optimal, we think? I mean, probably, but yeah, we still got to mix in the other builds. Is leverage a thing for NBA Showdown? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Fading a guy at a high ownership is probably the better way to get leverage. I mean, I'm fading Kyrie. He's projected for 61% total ownership on DK. If he has a bad game, like 40% of the field is just drawing dead.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to kind of look for the direct leverage point. Like, so if Dallas still plays well and Kyrie plays poorly, you're probably going to want a lot of Luka and PJ. But leverage definitely exists. Luka's popular, so you're not getting leverage there. So playing less Kyrie and more PJ is one way to go. Playing less Tatum, Brown, more of the other Celtics is a way to go. Like, I'm not saying these are any certain maneuvers you should be making, but yeah, there is still leverage in one game slate. It really just depends where the field's going.
Well, look at the lineup that won game one milli. I think it only chopped like 10 ways or so. They each got 149K. It was Al Horford, a captain. The lineup had Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Luka, Drew Holiday, I believe, and Jaden Hardy. And like the whole leverage there was, Al Horford was under-owned, first of all, because he was announced in the starting lineup late. But playing Al Horford and Porzingis in the same lineup and then just getting the right bench player in Hardy, like it was looking at it, it's a relatively simple lineup to make. And
Brown outplayed Tatum too. That was big.
Yeah. And it only took a couple of pieces to work out. Horford or Lively on FanDuel?
Slightly prefer Horford. I think he's safer. If you're just picking and you have the salary, it's Horford.
Captain, Lively, Brown, Doncic, Horford, Washington, White. If that's your captain pool, that seems totally fine.
Love it. Yeah, none of those sound bad to me.
And we'll get to these last couple questions and then get out of here. Tatum thought, I'm low on him just because I'd rather pay the price for everybody else. But like me and Nick both said, we don't think he's going to have a bad game or anything. I just think that his score is going to be too close to the other guys.
Yeah, on DK, I'd definitely be under on him. On FanDuel, I think there might be some overreaction. He's only 500 more expensive than Jaylen Brown. Jalen's a little bit lower owned, but I'd still rather go to Tatum on FanDuel. So definitely under because we're heavy on Luka, but not going to say Tatum's in a bad spot here. He should have a good game.
And Kyrie fade again? I am, but I'm not going to be surprised at all if he comes out and drops 20 in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, if you're only playing a lineup or so, I would say yes. And if you're not playing Luka lineups, I do like having Kyrie in those kind of as a leverage point. But yeah, of the expensive guys, I'm more comfortable fading Kyrie than anyone else.
And Michael Dooley, thanks for the I don't even know what to call this tip in the chat.
Super chat, I think.
Super chat. Shout out to you. Al Horford usually has that one game where he plays out of his mind. I could see it tonight with that cheap price and low ownership. Hey, I'm all about low Horford. Al Horford, if he comes in at this ownership versus Porzingis, I feel like that's another point of leverage. Because I'm kind of lower on Porzingis too, coming off the bench. I mean, we haven't projected for 25. He played 21 in game one. He would have got another rotation if the game was close. So this is probably pretty accurate. But yeah.
I like it. Yeah, Horford played great, and it looked like Dallas was trying to target him on defense at times, which is kind
No,
of crazy knowing he's a good defender. But
yeah.
he did excellent. Like he really showed out. Had a few blocks. It was tough for them to really get anything going on him. But yeah, played 30 minutes. Even if Porzingis plays a few more, I think Horford's going to play 30 plus. So I like the call a lot.
You cannot target any part of this Celtics defense.
Right.
Like it just doesn't. It's you're not going to have a good time.
Nope.
So, you have anything? Any final words before we get out of here?
No, I'm just pulling for Jason Kidd as a Nets fan. I mean, it's funny. Kyrie in the Garden's been a thing. I've been to a bunch of games there, and they literally chant "F Kyrie" the whole time he's on the floor. It's hilarious. It seems to be getting to his head a little bit. I do think he bounces back here, but again, if I'm fading any stud, it's probably him. I do think Tatum probably outscores Brown here, just kind of getting back to the median of what they usually do. But the big adjustments here are going to be Dallas getting assists. If Dallas isn't finding passing lanes, they're going to lose the game again. Luka needs to get assists tonight. They're going to be running a lot of pick and roll, not only with the bigs, but with Kyrie. That's the key to the game, in my opinion. So I do think Dallas bounces back here. I'm probably going to be betting them plus money, or not plus money on the money line, but the plus 6.5 points. I don't see how you don't take that. But I don't know. Feels like a must win. If they lose here, it's going to be tough for them to kind of climb out of this hole.
Nicely said, dude. I missed hearing your takes on things. I haven't heard from
It's been
each
a
other
while,
much during
man.
the
Yeah.
playoffs. So,
No, good to be back. I hope the series extends just so we can do more of these. I think we're going to try to do one every game.
yeah,
So yeah, the more games we get, the more we can chat it up here on YouTube.
yeah, we'll be out here, guys. So subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and appreciate you all watching. We'll see you next time. Good luck tonight.